Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chat. My name is Bryan Kearney. Absolutely delighted today to be joined by an old friend of mine, Maria Healy. Maria, how are you?
I'm good, Bryan. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a privilege.
It's great to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'm just back from the gym. I'm pumped. How are you?
Actually doing all right, because today, the day that we're recording, there seems to be a big shift in terms of the messaging and the government's approach to how they're going to handle COVID and stuff. I'm still a little bit sceptical about why it's changing so quickly and stuff, but any good news I'll take. What we've gone through over the past 2 years, so let's hope that this is the beginning of the end of it and we can just move on from this farce, what's happened and how it's been handled, because for someone like yourself and myself, being involved in the scene that we've been in has just been very, very tough. So let's hope we can move on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's from Ireland, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see that. But I think England has, I think from March they're scrapping more or less everything now. So fingers crossed, this is the way forward.
Yeah, that's what they're saying here as well. They're getting rid of the COVID passes and nightclubs and all that are coming back and stuff. So just need to see what they say later on. Obviously, this podcast will go out after all that stuff has been announced. But let's just speak about what they've said so far. But it's all good. But as I said, it's great to have you on the podcast. You're the first female guest that I've had on. For anyone accusing me of favoritism towards certain sex or whatever, but one of my first guests was supposed to be a female, but unfortunately she wasn't able to come on the podcast for various reasons. But it's great to have you on, and
thank you representing.
Yes, absolutely. It's good to have you on today. You're someone that I've known for a very, very long time, since the early clubbing days in the vaults in Dublin.
Oh God,
for people listening in, the vaults was a place that I sort of started DJing on a regular basis, and every single gig that I played, there was this one girl up the front screaming about to play certain tracks and to do this and to
there
do
was
that.
One track. Do you remember the one track?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
Jose Amnesia.
Yeah, Louder. My rework of Louder.
My God,
but when I listen back to that rework now, I don't even know how I played it, because the track is completely out of key. The bass line isn't even the same key that the track is. But that's what we did in those days. We didn't really think about these things too much.
Oh God, I was that annoying fan at the front.
Yeah, you were the passionate one at the front who was always shouting and wanted it to make yourself heard, and but it's really good to see people like that as well, because that just sort of showcase people's passion for music. And I from getting to know you as well as I do over the last 15 years or so, I know that you're someone who has a huge amount of passion for the music. So can you talk us through how you actually got into music in the first place?
Yeah, I suppose when I was growing, when I was about 14 or 15, my brother Blue had decks, but he was a normal DJ, but he'd always have Sasha and Dickweed on, and I was like, oh, what's that? And then kind of was loving all the progressive stuff. But then I think growing up in Balbriggan, everyone was going to God's Kitchen. So I went to my first God's Kitchen when I was 15, and I remember getting on the bus and everyone was like, you should not be here. I had a girl's ID that I used to work with, and she gave me her college ID. We never even looked at anything. We just had dark hair. And I got into the Point Echo, and I started going kind of from there. I went to the first God's Kitchen. I think it was the 19th of October 2002. And it was Scott Project, Ricky F, Paul Van Dyke. You were probably there.
Of course I was there, yeah. I still have some photos from that night, actually. They're very entertaining photos, yeah. It was amazing. I remember it well.
Thank God there was no iPhones back then. No. We'd all be in trouble. But I think then kind of following on from all those sorts of gigs, I went to the Red Box. But sorry, before that, when I was 15, I said to my dad, I said, look, I want a set of decks for Christmas. So we went down to this shop in Drogheda, and I remember there was a guy behind the counter and he was like, "They're for you." I says, "Yeah." And he says, "But you're a girl." I says, "Exactly why I want them now." Like, so, I think there was a bit of rebellion after after that. Like, I was like, and my dad was like, "Are you sure you want them?" And I was like, "Absolutely now." So after that, then I think that always stuck with me, because it was like, what do you want them for? But following on from that, then I had, the Newmark TT1600 belt drives, and I started going into Abbey Discs when I was, 16, 17, buying all the records from, do you remember Billy? So I used to go, I was doing bagpacking in Super Value, which is a supermarket locally, and all the wages went on buying some records every week. So then, where do you start? There was the whole gig about the neighbours. That's a very long story, but
fill us in on your altercations with your neighbours, which led to the Gardaí being, or the police being involved.
So I think when I was around 16, 17, there was one occasion where I was playing music kind of late at night, and the neighbour came in, and I was like, "Oh, look, sorry, it was loud." And he kind of got really angry with me, and my dad didn't like that then. He says, like, "Don't speak to my daughter like that." But then kind of ever since that, sometimes it wasn't about the music. I could have MTV on and like the guards were down. So my dad got taken to court it was like environmental pollution. And then, the outcome of that court case was that I had to turn my music down or off or whatever. And then, I started to like mix in my headphones, but, it just went on for another 2 years. And then, the Garda were a regular down at my house. And one time, like, I think the next court case was that we had a guard as a witness for us saying, like, as I approached the house, the music was like not audible, and the young girl had like MTV on. But then another guard came down and said the windows were open, but I could hear the music. But it just became an annoyance thing, like going over the years. There was food thrown over the wall, there was like grease splashing the windows. It was gone past what it was about, like, really. So, there was a bit of a battle back and forth. And then I think the final court case was my dad got threatened with a week in jail if my music is not turned down. So at that point, we ended up like selling our house, and we were going to move up to where you live, or was, your old estate. So we put a deposit on the house up there. And then kind of when push came to shove, I was like, "Dad, I don't think we can move." And he said, "No, fuck it, we won't move." So then after that, like my dad still is there today. I've obviously moved out, but, I think that kind of like stopped me from playing music a little bit. I stopped playing the decks, but, it was still in me, but it was like, "Oh, I can't do this anymore." So, I always learned how to mix in my headphones. And then following on from that, I was 21 and I went to do a season in Ibiza in 2008, just pure like party season. And then after I came home, I was like, "No, I really need to be a DJ now." Like, so the year after that, I brought my decks over to Ibiza, and the first night, I remember one of the girls said, "Right, you're playing in Troppies, let's go." And then, like, more or less every night after that, for the whole summer, I played in Troppies. So, that's how it all kicked off, really. But it was, I think as well, the whole neighbour thing, like, I'm kind of glad it happened, because, it goes back to that, like, I was a bit of a rebellious person. And, like, I remember then, when I was starting to get really good gigs, I loved walking out of my house with my suitcase and the wheels bashing off the pavement. I was like, "Fuck yeah." So yeah, it's a longer story than that, but that's the gist of it, I guess.
Yeah, I had something very similar there with a neighbour with a noise complaint in the old house that we were in. It was obviously at my studio I lived in a duplex, but the studio was upstairs. You remember my old little studio, but one day I got a knock on the door, and there was two coppers at the door, and they just said, we've had complaints about the noise here. And I just said, well, that's there's no restrictions on noise during the day. This is my work, this is my job, there's not much you can do. And he said, yeah, we know that, but we just have to come up to sort of inform you. And I knew it was the next door neighbour, because she was an absolute weapon. She was a weapon, absolute weapon. She thought she owned the road. Like she was like, I remember one time we came home and there was this absolute banger of a van right at the bottom of our steps blocking the thing, and it was a broken down van she left at the bottom of the stairs, and she was at the top of the stairs and go, what the fuck is this? She's there, I need to leave it here, and I was like, get rid of that fucking van or I'm ringing the guards. But it probably didn't say that, but get rid of that fucking thing now, it's an eyesore. But then but then about 3 weeks later, there was another knock on the door, and it was the next door neighbour, and she was there, turn down the music, and I was like, I was upstairs folding clothes while Edel was doing the ironing. I was folding the clothes with her. And she goes, turn down the music. I was there, what the fuck are you on about? There's no music on. I'm up here folding clothes. Turn down the music. I can't deal with this anymore. I was like, don't talk to me again. Fuck off. I'm never speaking to you ever again. So I thankfully didn't really see her again, because she moved out of the area. I haven't seen her since. But it's a very similar story. And coming back to what you were saying as well, to the way you were working in Super Value packing bags. Around that time, I was probably a couple of years older than you, but I was working as a cleaner up in Intel, and like that's how I got money to go into Abbey Discs and to buy records and all that type of stuff. So that's it. Like, I didn't care how I earned the money. I just needed to be able to go out to clubs and enjoy myself, and to be able to buy records and improve as a DJ. So it's quite a similar story for the two of us in that sense, you know.
I think I wasn't that good on the vinyl, but I just loved the physical, like vinyl, and having that, like, but it was like, I loved it. I always remember, like, Billy was like, get them for the girl being on Saturday to collect them.
Yeah, you felt like a superstar, because he knew my name. I felt like it was a superstar walking in, because at that time I had some like shows on pirate radio, on Energy and Kiss FM and stuff. And obviously, being that young, walking in thinking you were great because Billy knew your name, but then I actually realised that I'm on radio, so actually no one has a clue who I actually am, you know. Yeah.
Oh, good time.
It was indeed. And then obviously you spent a number of summers in Ibiza. What was the first year that you went over there?
So I did 2008, and to be honest, like, I was just so uneducated. Like, I was paying, the way, like, you work there, so like you get your passes and stuff. Like, absolutely hadn't got a clue. Like, I was paying into amnesia every week and all. I got like a loan out of the credit union, and then I had money for my 21st, so I had like $7,000 going, and I absolutely had like a ball. I didn't work one day in my life over there, like not a day. I think it was the year after then I got a job in like Joe Spoon's, and it was like a day shift. So it was like 3 till 7, 4 hours every day. And like, it was really ideal, because then like you have to get up, and then you have your few hours kind of in between like the sunset and stuff. And then you go back, get your dinner, get ready, and then get the CDs down to Troppies. And then I started playing in like a residency for in Play 2 for Vicky Devine's night. So, that was the routine, but it was brilliant. Like, really,
I remember
good.
those. Well, I don't remember those nights well, but I do remember those nights well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. Like, like, it's so sad that like Troppies is gone, and but look, I'm so grateful that I got to do the seasons when I did. Like, I did 2008, 2009, 2010, and it was just trance heaven. You'd have your Tiesto gigs on the the Monday night in Privilege. It would be Armada on Tuesday, Break Wednesday, Cream Thursday, Charlie's Angels, or Play 2 the Friday, or I think like there was a Pete Tong night on. Then Saturday, Break, Sunday, Judgment Sundays, repeat.
Yeah, it was just maybe like a Saturday night, you'd be down the West End just getting hammered, and then troppies with Oscar and stuff like that. Yeah, they were good times. They were great times. I honestly, I don't think Ibiza will ever be like that.
No.
Ever again. I think the idea behind the people who are sort of running it now is they want to get away from that sort of image, that's the boozy image of like the West End. They want to sort of move away from that to more like 5-star resorts and stuff. But at least we can say we were there when the times were good. Yeah,
absolutely. And just even like getting to play at Cream Amnesia, like that was always like, that's everyone's DJ like pinnacle. So I'm so glad I got to do that as well. Like, because I think had you nearly been there and then it closes or it moved to space that year, like, and you didn't get to do it, like I would have been heartbroken.
Yeah, because that night where I played the closing set in 2016, we were told that was going to be the final night ever at Cream. So I was sort of, I don't know, was that the closing party or was that?
No, it was 2017, I think. So
yeah, but the year before in 2016, that set where we were all staying in the villa, remember we all had were you over at that in the 8th of September, I think it was? I don't know if were you there?
Yeah, no, I was there.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah. The one where we were all staying in the villa up in the hills of San Antonio. That night, we were told in advance that could have been the last time that Cream was ever, well, it would have been the last time we were ever at Cream. I know there might have been a couple of parties after that, but that meant I had to do something special for that set. Yeah. So like, I just remember that was probably the best night I've ever had in Ibiza, that in 2016. It was unbelievable. Because remember, did you come to Formentera then the next day?
No, I think I had like 3 gigs the next day. Do you remember that? I had like a boat party in the morning, a beach party in the day, and then a club gig at night time. So I think it was straight after Cream. So I didn't go to Formentera. I was like a yo-yo going back and forth.
It was an experience to say the least, making our way over to Ibiza after being up from the night before, all that sort of type of stuff. But it was an amazing time. But as you said, like, there's not a lot of people who can say they played at Cream at Amnesia. There's not a lot of people at all. So for someone like yourself to go from someone who was a dedicated clubber to switch sides from the dance floor to the other side of the decks is a massive achievement, because you think about the amount of people that we know who've been interested in DJing or love the music, but they never are able to take that next step. For someone like yourself to be able to do that, you're in a very rare company, so it's something that you should be very proud of at the same time.
Oh, thank you, Bryan. No, it is like, I love it. I really do. Like, I don't really remember a defining point of when I did make that kind of switch, but I suppose I always look at myself as a clubber on the decks, because like I enjoy it as much as the clubbers do, you know what I mean? So
yeah, you can see that from when you're playing and that. You do be absolutely loving it. It's always good to see. It's good to see that. Sometimes I feel like I've sort of been doing this a little bit too long, and I find it hard to get as enthusiastic as I might have been in my younger years, but I really do tend to enjoy most of my sets. I think I said it in the podcast with Fergie, I just need to let my face know that I'm actually enjoying it. But I'm very concentrated when I'm playing as well. I'm thinking about the next set, and like I played in Belfast a 5-hour set a couple of weeks ago, and I was just looking back at the video, and I just look so serious at times during it, but
inside you're
I know I was, but you need to understand, like, I'm playing for 5 hours. There's no one else playing, there's no one else coming on after me. I have to be careful with what I drink in case I drink too much too soon and I'm not concentrating properly. Then at the same time I have to sort of be thinking ahead what I'm going to be playing, what I'm going to be playing, and then it's a very mentally exhausting thing to play for that long and to be performing, and to, like, I only really sort of properly got into it in probably the last 90 minutes, where I felt like I could properly let go and I go, right, 90 minutes left, I can let it go, I can have a little bit more of a drink now, I can let loose and really enjoy it. But for you, anytime you're playing, it's like there's 10 minutes left in your set all the time, so you're just going to enjoy yourself and let go every single time.
I know.
Coming back to something you said at the start when you were buying your first set of decks, it was something I wanted to ask you about. being a female in the dance scene, which is predominantly or has been seen as sort of a male sort of dominated environment. How have you found that? Obviously now it might be a little bit different, that you're more established and you're more well known and you have more of a following and stuff. But how did you find that at the beginning in terms of trying to break into a scene?
I suppose, like, you know, I suppose, like, I didn't really look at it from the female thing. Like, you know, I just take it in my stride as I was like a DJ going. But, you know, I suppose I was always like, I've three older brothers, you know, I was always around like males, you know. So I think I always had a bit more of I suppose a bit more fire in me. But I think, like, sometimes it was definitely like a challenge, because I went up to like step onto the decks before, I think it was a gig in Belfast, I can't remember where it was, and he was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "I'm DJing," and he asked for my ID getting onto the decks. And you know, there was just some of these situations where I was like, "Oh, come on." And even like more recent enough, I was walking up to the backstage with Mark, and he thought Mark was playing, you know. So there was just, I suppose, like, there's been like those type of situations. But look, I think sometimes I just use it to make me a bit stronger. You know, I suppose, like, why isn't there more females in the scene? I don't really know. Like, I think, you know, it's a bit of a volatile scene, you know, and like it's a tough one to crack. Like, I still don't feel that I really cracked it yet, you know. I think in 2020 it was all like all systems go. Like, I had like gigs lined up nearly every few weeks, and I was saying to like Neil from Music First, I was like, you know, this could be the year, you know. But it all obviously fell asunder with lockdowns and COVID. So, you know, I keep trying, you know. I think the passion gets me going, you know, keeps me going through it all. Like, so yeah, I don't know if I really answered that, but
oh, you did, yeah. It's just, it's like there probably is, there always would be a sort of, maybe it would be like an unconscious sort of thing where people, like established people in the scene, would probably have a little bit more of a, not that they'd look down to it. I don't want to sound rude, but like they mightn't take them as seriously as a male counterpart, if you know what I mean. But like, this is mainly in the trance scene. You look at like
the techno is booming.
Yeah, like Charlotte DeWitt, Amelie Lenz, Nina Kravitz and stuff. They're at the top of their absolute game.
Yeah,
and I've even seen it myself during the pandemic and stuff. Certain producers and DJs sort of bad mouthing them and stuff online.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Yeah, you see that as well. Like, that's just fucking jealousy about where they are, their own current situation. They should just concentrate on their own careers, and like, just because other people are more successful than they are, that's your issue. That's not their issue. So like, they just need to shut the fuck up, really.
Yeah. But, I definitely get my daily stick, or not daily stick, but I've definitely had a lot of stick in the past. You know, like, yo, you're a girl, you can't mix, blah blah blah. But I always remember. I don't know if you remember what you said to me before, but you said to me, "You look like a girl, but play like a bloke." Do you remember that? Yeah. So I was like, oh, look, you know, I probably do it subconsciously, or I'll probably like just block it out. I suppose, like, I never really wanted to play on the female card, you know, but then, because you kind of get pigeonholed, like, I don't want to be in a genre of females, but then sometimes it is quite empowering as well, you know. I can look at it as, oh, I am probably one of a handful of girls that are in the trans scene, you know, so it is quite a good thing. But
yeah,
look,
like like,
going.
That comment about playing like a bloke but looking like a girl, that was something I probably said years ago. It'd probably be something you couldn't even say now, you know.
Oh, because, yeah, geez, sorry, you know, disclaimer. We don't want to.
It was meant as a compliment, and I'm sure people will see that. But as you said, but like, it is important that, like, more don't be bringing genders into it, but it is very important for there to be more of a female sort of, what would the word be? There needs to be more females in the scene, playing at shows, doing really well. I see there's a girl now, Amy Wiles, that she's involved with, like, Juna Beats and stuff. Yeah. That's good to see. Like, there needs to be more, because you need to understand that people that go clubbing, like, I'd say it's probably maybe 60-40 in terms, like, from what I can see, that to be probably in terms of the trance gigs, there would be slightly more males than females at the show. But the girls who are, like, who love the music, they need to have someone to look up to that you know, that they can relate to, and that they think, right, if they can do it, I can do it. And there needs to be more of that, you know.
Yeah. Like, I definitely looked up to, like, Sophie Sugar back in the day. Like, she was playing at all the big 8 slots, and, you know, I loved her sound. And, you know, she's gone now. She hasn't done anything. So, you know, I don't have, like, a trance, like, idol who's a female. Do you know what I mean? But, like, these are my idols. You know, it's John and Bryan and Giuseppe, you know. So that's just the way it is. I suppose, like, back in the day, it was Lisa Lashes. You know, she was the girl hero. And I suppose that's probably who I did look up to when I was starting off. But a totally different genre. Like, you know, it was hard house. I did play a bit of hard house back in the day, you know. So, yeah, I suppose it is good to have a female role model if you were thinking about getting into it.
And you said that, like, obviously COVID and 2020, it sort of derailed your plans for sort of progressing in your career. You moved to the UK around this time. How did you find switching from Ireland to the UK in terms of, obviously, it's a completely different place to live, in terms of how it changed your life? Did you find it a much different place to Ireland in terms of living there?
I suppose I moved. It was actually at the end of April 2019, and I think I moved. And, like, I also have my normal day job. For a lot of people don't know that, they think I just do music full time, but I do have a full time job. So my boss let me take my job remote, and, you know, that was all well and good. But I think I was doing the homework before homework was a thing. So I definitely struggled with that side of it, you know, just being on my own. I was sitting at home on my own, or, you know, and then COVID kicked in. So, you know, I didn't really get to, like, venture out and make my own groups of friends locally. So I suppose, like, it was good. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was a lovely part of the world, but I definitely appreciated it a lot more in lockdown, because there's lovely places to, like, walk, and, you know, it was a lot of, like, there's a lot of, like, peaks, hills, like lakes, rivers, you know, lovely part of the world. So I think it was a hard transition, because we were stuck in a 2-bed apartment for the whole of lockdown, no garden. And look, I suppose, you know, happy that I had a place to live, but I was also very privileged that I had a job through lockdown, continued to work. So kind of wanted to use that to our advantage and save. So we bought a new house then last year. Sorry, I'm so mixed up with my years, 22. Yeah, so we moved into a new house last year. So I definitely think maybe last year I settled a lot more. But I think Ireland versus England, look, I don't love Ireland, you know. But I think England, like, to buy a house here is a lot easier. Car insurance and, like, tax. Like, I remember I was paying, like, oh my God, the insurance, I was paying like €90 direct debit every month. And I rang up in April. I said, oh, how much is it to get my car? And she said, car insured on a monthly policy. And she said £65. And I go, a month? And she goes, no, just do it the rest of the year. I was like, oh my God, I'm never going home for that reason alone. So I think Ireland is daylight robbery for that sort of stuff. I think it's a better quality of living I suppose. And obviously with the whole housing crisis going on in Ireland, you know, they don't make it easy for like, you know, their 30 somethings or even late 20s. You know, it's just the norm in Ireland that you don't move out until like your mid 30s.
Yeah, Adele was telling me she saw a thing around where we live, a 1-bedroom sort of bed sit, and it's €1,200 a month. Fucking Ireland! It's an absolute scandal of a country. Like, I've been looking to get not get a new car, but I'm looking to get a specific car, and I've been looking for the last year. And I'd be looking on like Auto Trader over in the UK, and if I wanted to get a car like I'm looking for, get it no problem, nice spec, decent. They'll probably be about like 15 grand cheaper than here, and I can't get it here because the Brexit has like really all the cars used to come in. They used to come from the UK. Now you can't bring them in. So like, say if you buy a car from the UK for say 20 grand, and if you want to bring it into Ireland now, it'll cost you about €16,000 because of all the extra taxes and VRT and stuff. Should we pay tax on cars in Ireland? We already pay. Was
it like 3 grand or something before this? So if you brought a car from the UK, you have to pay like.
But now there's like emissions charges, and you have to pay VAT, and you have to pay customs duty. So it's this country. I swear to God, it drives me fucking nuts.
Well, England is always.
I know.
Just across the water.
We've talked about it.
Yeah.
How bad it's been here in the last 2 years in terms of restrictions, and just even when we went over for Creamfields, like being able to walk into a shop not wearing a mask and all that stuff, and nobody says anything to you. Like, even we were over in Newcastle for the Good Grief gig last month. Hotel we were staying in, no one wearing masks, nobody looking down on you if you don't want to wear one. Walk into the restaurant, nobody's wearing one. Everyone's just, the COVID police aren't out giving out to you and giving the eyes and all that shit. That's the society I want to live in. I don't want to live in with the fucking COVID-phobes or whatever their names are that are afraid of everything and shitting themselves all the time. I don't want to live in a place like that. So we actually did talk about, look, we're going to have to get out of here. I can't live in Ireland anymore, but maybe the news here today is an indication that things will be all right.
Just see how it goes. Yeah, sit tight. Yeah.
But in terms of the pandemic, what was when it started, everyone was afraid. What was your situation when it began, and what were the major things that sort of happened throughout? We'll go back to 2020 maybe. What were the major things that, obviously we started at the beginning and then work our way through, because I know that you've gone through a lot of sort of serious life experiences in the last few years. Yeah.
Well, I think, during, I suppose, like 2020, the start of it, it all started well. We were at John's wedding. We were gearing up for a nice year. And then I think, March, April, May, it was kind of like, this is new, I'm just going to go into like gym and health mode. I got myself a cross trainer, and like we're getting out for walks, focusing on the health. I know I was cooking like a mad woman, because that's all I really could do. And then, obviously doing a few streams here and there, but stick it down now at this moment. But in July 2020, we went back to Ireland for the first time then, and we got engaged. So I suppose there was a good few positives that came out of 2020. And then in August 2020, I broke the rules because my ma wasn't well. She was struggling a little bit. She got some news that it mightn't be good news with her liver. So my ma is an alcoholic, as you know, but she was struggling for a bit. But I just said, you know what, I'm going to break the rules. It was her birthday. Fuck the Irish government. I travelled back, and I had her last birthday with her, and I'm so glad that I did, because a lot of people didn't get that, and whatever, I probably shouldn't have did it, but I did. I just had to do what was right for me at the time. And I think then it was September then, I got a phone call, and I'm my mum's next of kin, so they rang me when I was in England, and it was the home help, and they were like, look, she's not well, you know. So I had to try and call an ambulance for over here, but didn't I get through to the 999 here? And I had to ring her brother. So, you know, I was like, look, you have to go in, you know. She didn't want to. And she goes, if I go in, I'm not coming out. You know, I think she knew, but I was like, look, you know. Then I think a week after she had went in, you know, I was ringing her every day and, you know, she was answering. But again, no one could go into the hospitals. So she didn't see anyone for like a whole week, I suppose. And then after that, then, you know, I got the call. It was like, look, it's not good. And, you know, you travel, Bryan, you know that getting the call when you're away, it's like, oh my God, like, get me home quick. So, you know, the flights were very, you know, Ryanair to Bristol flight is like usually very, like Dublin to Bristol is very like regular, but there was only one flight a day. So I had to wait until the next day then to get home. And then, you know, we were waiting on the news, but the whole week went by and nothing was really happening. But they'd let me in on the Sunday a week following that. And I got in for like 15 minutes, but she was kind of like, you know, the machines were just keeping her alive. And then after it was the following day, you know, they turned off the machines and she sadly passed away. But I think I'm so glad that it was at the time where, you know, we were allowed to go into a room separate and we got to say our goodbyes, you know, to the very last minute. But I think that gives me a lot of peace, because I know a lot of people didn't get to do that. And then I think even, you know, breaking the rules and going back for the birthday, like that was my last kind of time where she was like happy and having fun, having a drink and stuff. So, you know, that was really like, it was probably, you know, it was the most difficult thing ever. And then I remember you said to me like, it's not going to hit you until a few months. But then in December 2020, I almost lost my brother. So he had a massive stroke. And then, like, I think I was like, oh no, this can't be, like, you know, what next? So he was kind of, you know, like, thankfully he didn't lose any movement and stuff, but he was in the hospital. And then it turns out like 90% of his main artery was blocked on the right side. And he said, like, he was waiting to get the surgery and then he got COVID in the hospital. So 2 weeks isolation down to the high dependency unit. Well, he was actually okay, but he had to go in like isolation on his own 2 weeks. You know, he was a ticking time bomb and he knew that he needed that surgery. So then they come up to him and they said, like, look, we're going to have to send you home. COVID, we can't do the surgery. And then with that, he had another massive, like, stroke with the stress of hearing that news. And they had no, like, option whether they had to do the surgery. So then they did the surgery. Thankfully, like, he's 100% now. But mother of God, it was a hard end to the year. Like, that was in December. So he literally went in, I think it was the 2nd of December, and he got out on Christmas Eve. So I think, you know, I was still trying to, like, do the grieving for my ma. But then, you know, then Donald, my brother, that all happened. But, like, it just was like, oh, bloody hell, you know. So I think even, like, going into 2021, it was like the hangover of 2020, you know. I was still dealing with all that stuff, but oh, bloody hell, like, it was definitely a real challenge in that sense. And I suppose, like, now I kind of measure my stress levels on, oh, Donald being in hospital with a stroke stress, you know what I mean? So it was definitely, oh God, it was like, give me a break here. But yeah. But look, I think, you know, you become quite strong. I think, you know, you learn to deal with these things kind of head on, like. So yeah, it was definitely a challenge, I would say.
First of all, you don't need to feel like you broke the rules or anything like that. Like, those fuckers that involved at the top of are doing the same thing. So don't ever feel any guilt because you came back to Ireland to say goodbye to
I don't know, though. I definitely don't know, yeah.
don't worry about that. Like, they're moments that you can't miss, because it was a similar thing when my dad was sick in hospital and he was in his final days. Like, I spoke with Snyder already, so I was in America and I had to fly back, and then I was in hospital for 5 days waiting for him to pass, and he did. And I know myself how difficult it was, and it's my dad's anniversary actually tomorrow, and I can't believe it's 6 years. And
6 years,
yeah, it's mental. But I feel now, obviously there's various stages of grief, and I've sort of moved through them all. I'm in a pretty decent place with regards to my dad passing away now. I can talk about it. I don't really have any sort of bad sort of, doesn't really make me sad anymore. You know, I sort of accepted it and moved on. But I probably can understand that you're probably in a sort of a different stage of that at the moment, because I think I was talking to you around when it happened, and I sort of said to you, for the first 6 months you'll sort of be numb, where you sort of feel okay, and then you're trying to think, like, why am I actually feeling not too sad here? Because that's how I felt. And I just remember that it was about 6 months after he passed away, and it was like Father's Day, and it was sort of the first time that I sort of started seeing the cards everywhere and just stuff about it everywhere, and I got really upset. And then the most difficult part for me was the 1 year anniversary. That's when it sort of really sort of hit me hard, and I went into a very, very sort of dark place, trying to make sense of it, and to sort of, how do I sort of like get through my days without feeling so low, because I don't want to say losing a parent, because death and passing, it's a natural, it's part of evolution. It's going to happen to every single person on the planet. I haven't lost him. He's still in here, and he's still in here, and that can never be taken away. And it's the same for you, and it's the same for everyone else. But that, like 12 months on from when it happened, that was very, 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 very difficult. Because this was at a time when I was spending a lot of time by myself. I was at home working by myself. Every day I was in work, so I'd no sort of distractions. I was just left at home with myself all day, every day. So coming back to yourself, I don't want to go on too much about myself, but where do you feel you are now in terms of the grief part of your mother passing away?
I think, maybe during 2021 there was a lot of like stuff bubbling at the surface, and it was around September 2021. I think it was that Planet Love, and I had a great set, but then it was a 1 year anniversary, and I got really, really drunk after, and it was kind of like the drunk where I'm like, oh, that wasn't fun. It was like more like shame and guilt. So I suppose I don't really mind telling people this, but I proactively then went to therapy just to kind of, acknowledge like some of the feelings that I was feeling, and probably going back and doing a little bit of digging into like, the hard feelings. So I did it for about 5 weeks. And honestly, Bryan, it was the best thing I could have ever done, because, it was an uncomfortable few weeks, going back doing the work, as they say. But I suppose I'm so glad that I did it. Like, I wouldn't say that like something, I left it really like I went downhill or anything. It was more of a proactive measure. And I would suggest, like, to any of your followers or listeners, like you don't need to be like down and out to do it. If you feel there's something there, you want to acknowledge it. Like, just take the plunge, reach out, try and get a little bit of help. But I suppose for me, it was just more dealing with I suppose I was like, I just want to make sure that I'm doing this grief thing well, because I think there were so many different emotions, that was, coming up. But then there'd be days where I'd just be okay. And, I'm a very happy-go-lucky person. And I think I was like, well, why haven't I like that all the time? And I know that's just life, but there was a few things that I just wanted to address, and honestly, it was the best thing that I could have done. I think the end of last year was really, I felt like I was really ending on a high, So now I think I think I'm okay, but I watched Afterlife the other day, and I mean, oh my God, like, I think that was very triggering for me. So there is some things that, you know, I'd hear a song and I would be like, I have these like big like outbursts of cries, but I'm like, oh jeez, I miss that. You know what I mean? So it does being, but then it comes out and I feel a lot lighter for it. So I can't really say what's like, definitely the acceptance, but you know, I think it's just one of them things. It will probably hit you at different stages. You know, Mother's Day, 1 year and 2 year anniversary coming up, the birthdays. You know, so I suppose even Christmas. My mom loves Christmas, so I think I just had a little like moment. You know, I'll always remember and have a little like light candle or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, you're dead right about Afterlife. We watched that at the weekend. There. It was I was pretty disappointed with, like, I know what Ricky Gervais does. He's done it with like other programs as well, where like he saves it all for the last episode.
Yeah.
I was sitting there in bits, tears flowing out of me. It was the kids with the cancer, and then like speaking about like the angels being dogs, and then like Harvey was just sitting on the ground. I was like looking this way, and he like that with my hand over my face. But yeah, it's yeah, you're dead right. It was just I found that sort of trick. I remember the first couple of episodes of Afterlife were exactly the same. It's just it hits a nerve, because like losing a parent is the most, I'm using the word losing, but your parent passing away is one of the most traumatic things that anyone will ever go through, because they're the person that brought you up, they brought you into the world, they worked hard to put you through school, to bring you up to be a good person, all that stuff, and then they're just gone. You know, it's very difficult to live with. And I just, when you were talking there about certain things coming on the radio or songs or something, I remember when the night that my dad did pass, and we drove home, and obviously I was sitting there, it's hard to comprehend what was after happening, but I had to drive home to get some sleep or whatever, because it was after being awake for 4 or 5 days. I hadn't been home. But I remember just as I pulled into my estate, a song coming on the radio, and it was it's called The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics, and the song is all about him not telling his dad how he felt like when he was alive, and that was the song that came on as I arrived back to my house. There could have been any song that came on any radio station at any time, but that was the song that came home as I drove home from the hospital after my dad passed. It was mental.
I'd say you heard every word of it.
Yeah, but it was just like you do question whether it's like believing in God, or I don't know whether I believe in God, but I believe that there's too many things that go on in the world for there not to be something spiritual going on. I don't believe in like organised religion or certain things like that, but I would be very spiritual. So it was just for something like that to happen. It was like this. That's fucked up. You know. It was mad.
It was something like that happened when my ma passed. My brother's alarm went off for him to get up for work at the very minute. And we were just like, whoa, that's so weird. It was like, you know, his alarm, like, for work every day. And it was just like, oh my God, it was crazy. Yeah. When things happen like that, you're like, oh, what was that?
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy.
Some people would say it's just a coincidence, but stuff like that.
I like to believe it's better. Like, believe the universe is at work.
Yeah. But like you were saying there, about going to therapy and stuff like that, that's a very commendable thing. That's something I've never really done. I've sort of just tried to, it's probably something that I probably could have done at various stages. I definitely would have needed it at certain stages, but I sort of always see myself as my own problem and my own solution, and I like to do things by myself. And I know that's probably a sort of a selfish sort of thing to say, but I like to sort of read and learn and look into things and trying to figure it out myself. And what I've done in what you were describing by going to therapy and speaking about those type of things is to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, is to be able to speak about stuff that you find difficult to speak about, But for me, a similar thing would be meditation. When you meditate, you're sitting there and you're learning how to be comfortable with uncomfortable thoughts and feelings and stuff like that. And I've got into it a lot more in the last year. I've done it like consecutively every single day for like the last 9 months. And it's quite similar to what you said, that you found it like those first 5 weeks where you were sort of acknowledging all these troubling, worrying things that you hadn't dealt with. But once you acknowledged them and you sort of let them be and you sort of let them go, you felt a lot better. And it's quite similar for me, where I stuck with the meditation, even though it was like scary and there was stuff coming up, and it was, but I worked my way through it. It was like I was taking the scenic route instead of just like not acknowledging it. So it was all coming up. But then I just felt better and better and better and better and better as time went on. And because you're just, it's like when you're meditating, it's like you're clearing out your system. It's like you're refreshing yourself. And therapy is a similar sort of thing. Meditation is a form of therapy. It's just something that you can do by yourself at any time. Yeah. So I found that very beneficial. I'm happy to hear that it has helped you. So do you feel now, at the beginning of 2022, how do you feel where you are in terms of your mindset, and how do you feel you are now?
Like, I feel great. Like with that, like I do meditation, I go to the gym, I do my gratitude journal. So I do have a lot of like tools, that if I am feeling like down now, I can quickly, well, I suppose sometimes some days are quicker than the other, but I can turn it around. Like I have my nice morning routine where I would get up, I journal, I have a cup of coffee, I hydrate, meditate, and then I suppose then, kick off the day. I started going to the gym in the mornings now, and it's really, I think like that's my preferred time for working out. You have all the endorphins going around your body, like, and it's just much better because I was more of an evening trainer. So it's really, really made a difference. So I think that would be my kind of thing now going forward. But I suppose mentally, like I'm great. I'm really excited for the year. I feel like I've definitely put like the last year or two behind me now. I just want to look forward, get excited for the gigs. I prefer to get excited for the gigs than not at all, because I think like I was on the fence, like, like, oh, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? But I'd rather get excited for them now and be let down rather than not get excited at all. So that's just the way, I suppose, I'm looking at it now.
All right, so we've sort of gone deep into the bad things that have happened. Let's leave that behind. We've acknowledged it. We've accepted it, and we move on to something more positive now. Obviously, you've also got engaged in the last couple of years. Now I know Mark is an absolute gentleman, and I remember you were saying that the Planet Love thing, and you were really upset. Like, I've been in exactly the same place where like you get too hammered, and like I've been there exactly the same, and it was for exactly the same reason that you had. But I remember how supportive Mark was of you that night, and how he looked after you. And I think he went back and you left your things on the stage.
My bag.
I'm not trying to embarrass you here. I'm trying to just showcase how much he obviously cares for you, and how much of a gent he is. How's your engagement been so far?
The engagement has been great, but like, to be honest, like, I don't know when the wedding will be, because I couldn't think of anything worse than planning a wedding now in this current climate. So look, I think we were probably just saying, geez, we might just go and do it ourselves and have a party after. Like, probably no plans to get married. I think buying the house was P1. It was, we wanted to get the house together, and then we have a beautiful home. So I think we've been just focusing on decorating the house and stuff, and getting, like, that's where the finances are going. And maybe in a few years' time we'll look at having a wedding or something, but it's at the back of my mind for now. I didn't really have much to do with the organisation of it now, our wedding, to be honest, but I do know that our wedding, the day itself was unbelievable, but at the same time, brilliant.
it just goes like that. It's
exactly.
It's over and
it's so much money for like one whole day, and I know, like, you know, it's every girl's dream, but it's not really mine. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather go on like an absolute hot honeymoon, like for 3 weeks, and have a little one. Now, I think before, like when it first happened, I had the spreadsheet out. I was like 200 guests, but I think after the whole lockdown thing, I was like, like I couldn't be bothered, you know. But that's not to say I won't get like that. Right now, no. I think, you know, like when I see all like the people trying to plan a wedding and cancelling and all that, like I was like, oh no, and then been restricted to a certain amount of people. No, I just said, oh, I can't think of anything worse. So we'll see how it goes. There's no panic, you know.
No real panic to do it yet, anyway. But I do know that it was an unbelievable day, the day we had. But I remember that. Do you think that you'd be nervous ahead of it?
No. Sure, look, we stood in front of thousands of people pressing buttons.
No, but I did. I've never had nerves. The two things I was nervous about was having to talk about my dad during the speech.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
But like, I would be more intimidated. I did a best man speech at my friend's wedding year before that. I can honestly say that I was more nervous about speaking in front of 20 people at a wedding in Ibiza than I've ever been for any other gig.
Yeah.
It's mad. But then at my own wedding, there was two things I was nervous about. I was nervous about talking about my dad in front of people and breaking down. And then I was nervous about the first dance because I can't fucking dance. And then during the dance, what does Adele do? She turns into fucking Beyonce and starts doing all her moves and leaves me standing there. And I think there's like a video of me, what am I supposed to do here? But then everyone just came onto the dance floor and that was over. But
it was a great day.
It was a great day, yeah. But it's something for you to look forward to. As you say.
And I do want it. Like, you know, when I've been to like your wedding and how good it was. I do want it, but I just don't know when.
Yeah. No panic, no pressure yet, anyway.
No pressure, yeah.
And how...
Sure, the house is a marriage, isn't it?
That was the next thing I was going to... How did you find moving into a house? How stressful was it? Because my memories of moving house were very, very, very stressful.
Yeah. Like, again, like what I said, like I class moving house now as a privilege stress. Like, that's what I kept saying. It's a very privileged stress to be able to move house and, you know, have the money and do that. Like, that's the way I was looking at it. But in fairness, like, Mark done all the emails and the solicitor work. Like, thank God he did, because, like, it was his apartment. Like, he owned that. So he was doing, like, all the nitty-gritties there. So to be honest, he did all the kind of that work on the side. So he was brilliant. So I think the moving day was like, oh my God, I felt like a ton of bricks had hit me. You know, it was like downstairs, upstairs, downstairs. I think there was like, it was 30,000 steps that day. But look, it's brilliant just to be here and have that our own space, because during the lockdown, you know, we really just wanted a garden. Like, a garden. We were stuck. Like, I think my room was my studio, it was my office, and it was my gym. And I was in a box room like 16 hours a day. Like, the walls were caving in on me. And I didn't, like, it's just something that you deal with. Like, you put up with, because you don't really know any better. But then when I came to the new house, I was like, oh my God. I just wanted to lie on the carpet and like have space. So it's really like I like didn't think I'd be like, I wouldn't say materialistic, but I didn't think that a house could bring me so much joy. Do you know what I mean? And just having our own space together, and, you know, there's beautiful trees looking out from our balcony. You know, there's little deers and everything running across the road, and ducks, everything. It's just it's really, really made me so much happier.
That's good to hear. Really good to hear. It sounds like you're living in a zoo or Jurassic Park or something there, but it sounds of it.
There's two deers, there's an egret, a duck, there's squirrels. Yeah, it's just all across the road. It'd be lovely now, because we moved at the end of October, so I'm really looking forward to having the spring and the summer here. It'd be lovely.
What's your plans for the rest? Well, obviously we're at the beginning of 2022, but what's your immediate plans in terms of music moving forward?
I finished my first vocal track that will have a summer release, I think, and then I've another original coming. And then gig-wise, London is coming up in 2 weeks for Liberation, and then I have a gig up in Leicester, I think it is, and then Subculture Australia. Fingers crossed that goes ahead. I'm not convinced about that one yet, but fingers crossed, and then there's a few like in the diary for like June, July, so I suppose just take it month by month, see how it goes.
That's all we can do, really.
It really is, yeah.
Any advice for people trying to get into the DJing world?
I'll give the advice that was given to me from your old manager from Fresh. Production. What was it? It was the 3 P's. It was production, promotion, persistence. And I was like, I'll add a few more P's, positivity as well. But yeah, I suppose, look, just keep going, keep at it, network, just do mixes, like be that annoying girl at the front of the desk. I can only give him from my lived experience, but yeah.
And one more thing before we go. I've been informed that you had another idol that has nothing got to do with music, and there's a story behind it from a time when you went to Liverpool for the weekend.
The Robbie Fowler story.
Robbie Fowler story, yeah. Can you fill us in on your Robbie Fowler story, your admiration for him, and what exactly happened, please?
Adele was telling old tales here, was she?
I got this out of her on a walk this morning with the dog, yeah.
Oh, God. So it was 2009. It was New Year's Day. I think Liverpool were playing Bolton. And it was like, the second coming of Robbie Fowler. He just returned to Liverpool. And I think like for that match, he got on for like 7 minutes. But like I spent most of the match looking at him running up and down the touchline. So it was New Year's Day. Everyone was kind of going out, but I was knackered. I was like, no, look, I'm not going. And, I was actually buying Robbie Fowler's autobiography that day. I had Fowler is God on my jersey. I was proper tomboy. Liverpool tracks on, the works. And everyone went down, apart from me and my friend Stacey. We stayed in the hotel room. And as luck would have it, who did they meet? Robbie Fowler. And like, I think back then, like it was like, I think Adele had texted me and said, you're not going to believe who's in the pub, Robbie Fowler. And I was like, fuck off. Like, I didn't know like that was actually like, I think, and then the bit that made me believe her said, oh, but he's very rude. And I was like, but she wouldn't say that if he was really there. Like, then, oh, look, I was absolutely heartbroken. They all come back and they were like in the room saying, we met Robbie Fowler. But yeah, it actually happened. They met him. You have pictures and everything to prove.
Maybe,
you know what they say, Brian?
Yeah,
you should never meet your hero.
That was just about what I was going to say. My best mate is a Liverpool fan as well. He met Robbie Fowler and he said exactly the same thing.
Really?
He was a bit of an arsehole, yeah, but...
Oh, but look, a load of drunk people... Yeah, but like, I suppose like you wouldn't like I was sticking up for Robbie here. You wouldn't like a lot of drunk Irish people running up to you in the pub. So
no, I get it. I'm only joking.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah.
That's a nice little way to finish off the podcast.
On a high note,
yeah,
or a sad note.
Yeah, Maria, thank you very much for coming on the podcast
Brian.
today.
Really appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, bye bye.